Hi, I'm Stephanie,
Hi, I'm Casey.
and our presentation is on the underrepresentation of older women in popular magazines list of beautiful people. Okay, so to begin, what comes to mind when you think of the term older women? So a lot of people assume that all there is back pain and anti-aging creams and that they all look a lot like these images. And to be honest, it was difficult finding non-stereotypical images of older women in the making of this slideshow, and as well as finding research, just because there isn't much. And we're going to cover a little bit more on that moving forward. Um, the times that older women were represented in magazines' top 100 lists, even the women admitted to being shocked to have been on those lists. For example, in this article, this People magazine, um, she mentions that she never considered herself to be beautiful, especially at her age, and that she was amazed that she even made it on the list, which is really unfortunate.
Yeah, and it was super interesting to see that the editor-in-chief's comment about the issue mentions that it was a special edition. And that shows us that it's suggesting that it's not normal or it's something that doesn't happen often. And you could even see on the cover, it says that it's a groundbreaking celebration. And so we wonder, why does it have to be a special issue to feature these women that are over 50 years old? So the first article talks about a study that took place in Sweden over the span of 3 decades. It happened in the year 1994, 2004, and 2014. And we found that the media plays a big role in the concept of ageism and that gender is also a factor. It's surprising to learn that legal legislation on gender equality in Sweden started back in 1980, but not until 2009 did they actually recognize age as a form of discrimination. It seems that as women get older, they're less and less visible in the media, whereas men are shown more and in more important roles, such as a boss, a spokesperson, or an expert.
Yeah, and as we can see in this graph that's listed down here, men were the ones that had a higher percentage of representation, and the only areas where we see that women had a higher percentage of representation is when the women were between the ages of 15 to 29. So this brings up the great question, is this just because the media only wants to show the younger stages of a woman's life? And if so, why is it acceptable for men of all ages to be represented, but not for women of all ages to be represented? And so this brings us up to our next topic, gendered ageism. So it's socially acceptable for men to age. However, women are are judged harshly by society for aging. And because of this, there's a very little representation of older women in magazines. And so in this specific study, researchers even struggled to find representation of older women in magazines for their research. So they ended up just grouping like the women all together.
And so, because these older women are not seeing people who look like them in the media, it's causing body dissatisfaction. And when they do see women who they can relate to, they're shown more covered up. And this in turn suggests that there's a disconnect between the society and what we view as sexy and appealing. And that doesn't seem to go along with like the aging woman. And then after looking at this next article study on beauty ads, we find that the media seems to be sending a message to these older women that this aging isn't acceptable. And that makes them feel like they have to mask their aging features.
And so not only are older women receiving the message that they need to mask these features of aging, but through the lack of representation of older women in the media, but they're also straight up being told like, hey, you need to stop aging. And that's through anti-aging ads like these that we see right here, which are so commonly accepted now, like nobody even questions them, which brings up the question, like, why? Why is anti-aging being promoted so much?
It's because aging is constructed in such a negative light in our society. But again, why? Why is getting older as a woman so negatively stereotyped? This article, the study found that these ads that do feature aging women, they're unrealistic because the older women who are represented are often, they have the money to pay for plastic surgery to cover up those aging features, or the images that are shown are actually filtered or they're photoshopped to conceal those signs of aging. We can think of popular culture people that we know, like Kris Jenner or Madonna, who clearly have spent the money on plastic surgery to hide the fact that they're aging and they don't look their real age.
Yeah, and so the times that older women are represented, like in TV shows and movies, they're always portrayed the same type of way, like naggy, bitter, instead of just being like a woman that is aging, because at the end of the day, that's what it is. Nothing changes except for the outward appearance. However, there's just always some kind of negative connotation that's associated with their characters just because they are an older woman.
I also wanted to quickly point out that this idea of feminist therapy was introduced to us by this article. It has to do with the media, and it can be beneficial to the self-esteem and confidence of these older women because it points out that the media can be used to reconstruct the way that our society views them, not as these older, nagging women, but in the real light that they are.
And so this next article focused on women's fashion magazines. And so basically it confirmed a lot of what the previous articles had mentioned, which is that older women, when they are represented, they are made to cover up more. As we can see in these images, there's an older woman and she's covered up, while the younger woman, she's able to wear more fitted clothing. And so a lot of times in these magazines, they're just portraying that message that if you're older, you need to be covered. And so the older models have to be covered from head to toe, while the younger ones, they can reveal a little bit more. Their clothing is more exposed.
And another article that did a study on fashion magazines shows again that older women are not often represented in terms of fashion. It's rare to see a woman over 40 in these images. And this study brought up an interesting fact that although many of these readers of these magazines are over 35, again, they're not represented. They're not seeing themselves except for the younger women.
And so here, this is just a little breakdown of the previous article. And so it's just the percentage of women that each magazine represented. And as we can see, the times that the older women were represented in these magazines, the magazines, they showed women that were like celebrities, which we already covered why that's problematic, because a lot of the times these celebrities, they have the means to pay for plastic surgery, the images are edited. So are the older women that are the readers looking at images of women that look like them? No, they're not. So, and even then, when the older women were represented, even if it were celebrities, it was less than 10%. So it's still very low numbers. However, I do want to note that they did find that in Essence magazine, they had some progress because they did not have any anti-aging advertisements, which is, a step in the right direction, although this still shows that there's work to be done. I do want to note that they had a little bit of progress there. And so for future research, we believe that it should cover the effects that the lack of representation of older women in magazines has, not only on older women, but also on younger women.
Yeah, and because at the end of the day, we're all going to get older, right? And so, since these ads are aimed at the older women, but they feature younger women, I think we should do research on all women in general to study the effects that, these anti-aging ads and campaigns are having on them.
I totally agree. And so this concludes our presentation. Thank you so much for watching. Where did it go? Shouldn't it be on there? Here we
we go. Oh, there it is.
See, it's not there anymore. The little box.
Oh,
For watching.
yay! I know I looked over, it was like 9:08. I was like,